Welcome back to Everybody Cooks. Joining me now is our Culinary Event Center chef, Marianne Moore, and we're here to talk about a very common ingredient, salt.
Everyone has table salt in their pantry, but there's so many other varieties to explore. Kosher salt is a coarse-grained salt. It's easy to pinch and adds a burst of flavor to your food.
Now, sea salt has a really clean, fresh taste. It's usually flaked, and it's great for finishing up a dish.
And then there's specialty salts. Applewood smoked salt, bacon salt, Himalayan sea salt, so many different varieties to explore.
And they're all available at Dierbergs.
Now, we're going to take salt to a whole new level with our salt-encrusted beef roast. Start with an eye of round roast and marinate it in olive oil and garlic pepper for about 2 hours. Take it out of the bag and make sure to pat dry with a paper towel. Now, here is the fun part. I use a whole box of kosher salt to make a salt paste. Take 1 1/4 cups of water and add it a small amount at a time. It's always easier to add more water than it is to take away. Mix this into a nice paste. And this definitely needs a little more water. And now's the time to get your hands dirty. Reach in and put about a 1/2 inch on the bottom of a foil-lined roasting pan. Pat that into place, and then add your roast. Now, for the best results, use a probe thermometer. It really takes the guesswork out of the perfect cooking temperature. Put it in the thickest part of the meat and continue to pat your salt crust on the roast. This really creates an oven within an oven. It seals in the moisture and juices and really helps with even cooking. It roasts at 350 degrees to an internal temperature of 140 degrees. It typically takes an hour and a half, but that depends on your oven. I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the oven, and Barb is going to have more fun with salt.
So I'm getting ready to cook some sweet potatoes nestled into some salt, and for this I'm using an entire carton of table salt. It's the very most economical and it works great for this recipe. Then I'm going to take the sweet potatoes and just kind of nestle them down into the salt, leaving a little bit of space in between them. And if you choose potatoes that are really similar in size and shape, they'll cook the very most evenly. I also want to cook a whole head of garlic. I'll just cut the top off of that. That exposes some of those cloves. And I'll put that down in the salt as well. I'll brush the top of everything with a little bit of oil. I'll sprinkle a little bit of salt over the top of everything. And then I can just cover the dish and I'll put it into a hot oven and let it cook for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. The meat is perfectly roasted and it's been resting for about 10 minutes. The potatoes are done. We are ready to go.
And when serving, invite your guests into the kitchen to watch you peel away the salt layer. Give it a whack with a wooden spoon, and underneath lies a perfectly cooked roast.
Beautiful.
Use a brush to remove some of the excess salt. And you may think that cooking it in this salt crust makes the meat salty. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to add some bacon salt.
Of course you'd add bacon.
For another layer of flavor.
Right.
And when you're working with flavored salts, always add them at the last minute after the cooking process because they tend to dissipate in the heat.
Right.
Grab a sharp knife and slice thinly across the grain.
Okay, now when the potatoes come out of the oven, you want to take the garlic and you want to set it aside so that it will be cool enough to handle. Then you can just squeeze gently, and all of these cloves are going to pop right out of the papery skin. As it's roasted, you not only mellow the flavor, but you also make the garlic really nice and soft and tender. Then we'll take a fork and we'll just mash that a little bit. I also want some rosemary, and anytime you can use a fresh herb, I think you get the very best flavor. So I'll just strip some of the leaves right off of the stem. Then I can mince that a little bit. Okay, we can just put these together. And we're going to add that to some softened butter. We'll stir it until it's well combined. I'm going to take one of the sweet potatoes here and I'm going to put it on the plate right beside the meat. And let me tell you what has happened. When you cover the dish, you create steam. And that makes the potato really moist and fluffy. But by putting the salt on the bottom, it absorbs the extra moisture, and so you get that nice roasted flavor that you're looking for. So I'll just split the potato down the center, fluff it up a little bit. I'll add a dollop of the rosemary garlic butter to the top. And I want to tell you, this is probably going to be one of the best sweet potatoes that you have ever tasted, and it's the perfect accompaniment to that beef.
And with these recipes, it's about simplicity. With salt, the perfect amount, the perfect technique transforms your cooking.
Absolutely.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, it's time for dessert.